Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hope you're all doing so well. Welcome back to another true crime and makeup episode. Today we are covering the case of the Papin Sisters, which has been so highly requested here on my channel. I was kind of holding off doing it because I feel like that's a bit of a popular case. So I wanted to make sure that if I am going to cover it, I can find out other bits of information that's maybe not been covered before. But ultimately, when it's a more historical case, it's a bit difficult to find more information. But I have watched many a French documentary on this and I think I came packed. But just in case you're new here, hi, my name is Anna and I post a true crime makeup video every single week, twice a week. I am a certified yapper, as we all know, and I figured I like to yap about true crime and makeup, so why don't I just come on the internet and yap about true crime whilst I do my makeup and hope that some people enjoy it, which you seem to do. Now, I'm not quite sure what classifies as a homicidal history, but this is like 100 years ago that this happened, so to me, that's a homicidal history, so welcome to a homicidal history. Before we get into the case of the Papin Sisters, please make sure you are subscribed with the notification bell on so you don't miss when I upload. Please remember to leave a comment down below. It's so important for the algorithm. A like, a comment would be amazing. In the comments below, if you have any questions you would like me to answer, I am going to do a little Q&A just so you can get to know me better, because I feel like one day I just rocked up on the internet doing true crime and makeup and like never really said anything about myself. So if there's anything you would like to know, whether it's personal, really personal, true crime related, anything, I'm an open book and I'm willing to share. So please make sure you leave your questions for me down below in the comments alongside your case suggestions if you have any. Now, very briefly, the Papin Sisters, they were sisters known to be mentally ill. Were they really? We don't really know, but it is said that they suffered from folie à deux. I don't know how you say it, okay, but they suffered from that, and it's basically a shared psychosis. Now, they were living maids for a very rich upper class French family, and one night the sisters would snap and there'd be victims, let's just say that much. Honestly, probably one of the grisliest murders I've ever come across, so strap in, get ready, and without any further rambling or any further ado, let's get into the case of the Papin Sisters. So I'm actually going to wear a white t-shirt today because I don't know what kind of look I want to do. I know I want to do something that's colour, but like, what colour? There's so many. Also, got my hair chopped the other day and it feels so short and just very foreign to me. I mean, I did get it cut at the start of the year and then I was kind of growing it back out, but chopped it again for hair health and it feels very strange. So today we're in France, right? And you know what I'm like, can barely speak English, so when I've got to say these French names and French places, it's not going to go down well. I'm going to try, but we all know me trying, not very good. Also, finished work for today and then had a 30-minute power nap because I'm shattered and my cheeks are a bit rosy. I mean, they're not too bad now, but they were definitely rosy like 5 minutes ago. Anyway, so first we'll start off by speaking very briefly about the Papin sisters' early life. Papin, that's quite good. So Christine Papin, she was born on the 8th of March of 1905, and Leah Papin, she would be born on September the 15th of 1911, so 6 years between them, but my god, these sisters were close. Closer than close, like weirdly close. Now, at the time that both of these girls were born, they were born into a very dysfunctional and problematic environment. They were born to their parents in Le Mans, help. But they were born to their parents Clémence Dere and also Gustave Papin. Gustave Papin. Okay, that was the dad. And Clemence was their mother. Now, before Leah and Christine even came along, there was a lot of hostility between Clemence and Gustave because it had been rumoured that our gal Clemence, she was having an affair with her boss. Okay, and Gustave, he caught wind of this because people were talking about it. Like, the gossip was rife in Le Mans. So he's really suspicious when he hears these rumours, but could you imagine how much more suspicious he became when his wife fell pregnant? But it's in the 1900s, and to have a child out with wedlock is frowned upon. Like, you just don't do it. You don't do it. So Gustave, he decides that he is going to marry Clemence. They get married in October of 1901, and then just 5 months later, they had their first daughter, Amelia Papin. I'm not even trying to do an accent now, but there's something there that just keeps coming out. It's like my inner French demon wants to speak. Gustave, he is trying to move on from these cheating rumours. He's trying to push them to the side and try and live a happy life with Clemence and his daughter. But these cheating rumours, they keep circling back, and he is just getting very fearful that his beloved dear wife and the mother of his child is playing away. So one day, Gustave, right, he goes on the hunt for a new job and he's able to find one. He comes home and tells Clemence about this job, and at first she's like, yay, more money, love that. Wouldn't last long though, because Gustave told Clemence that this job was in a new city and that they had to relocate. Gustave is like, Clemence, babe, you have yeed your last haul with that man, okay? It's me and me only. At first, Clemence, she's trying to play it cool, like she doesn't mind moving away, but suspiciously, she loses it. Inconsolable, like sobbing her eyes out, and she actually says to Gustave, if he forces her to move away from Le Mans, she will kill herself. Bit extreme. It's just relocation, but like, calm down. But Clemence could not calm down because her last haul had not yet been yeed, if you know what I'm saying. So Clemence, she has point blank refused to leave, and Gustave just has to accept her decision. Like, if he doesn't want to lose her, then he'll just have to deal with it. But this really, really affected their marriage, and this is when the marriage really started to break down over the next coming years. It very quickly deteriorated, and Gustave, he had started drinking to deal with the reality of his wife's infidelity. But like, Gustave, don't throw your life down the drain just yet, because we don't even know for sure. It's probably true, but we don't know. So now going back to when Christine Papin was born. So at the time of her birth, Clemence was deemed to be pretty unstable. Like, her mental health had vastly deteriorated. She was very unstable. She was not deemed responsible enough for motherhood, and ultimately Christine had to go and live with her paternal aunt and uncle, and she would actually live with them for 7 years, and apparently during this 7 years was Christine's happiest years. And then 6 years later, when Leah had been born, Clemence, however we're saying her name, she was still in a really bad position. So as soon as Leah was born, she was sent to go and live with her uncle, and she would live with him right up until he died, which unfortunately wouldn't be very long. In case you're wondering where their first daughter Amelia is, well, it was said that when Amelia was 10 years old, she had been raped by her own father. She had been raped by Gustave. When Amelia had told Clemence about this, she did not want to believe her daughter. She did not want to believe that her husband could be capable of something so awful. And so she blamed it all on 10-year-old Amelia. She had basically said that 10-year-old Amelia had seduced her father, which then made him have sex with her. I've never heard of a 10-year-old seducing anyone unless it's orphan, but we all know Esther wasn't actually 11 like they said. She was a full grown ass woman. How you can think that about your 10-year-old daughter who has just been brutally raped by her father is beyond me. Clemence at this time, she is absolutely raging because she believes her 10-year-old seduced her father into having sex with her. So she actually sends Amelia away to Bon Pasteur, which is a Catholic orphanage. And this orphanage in particular was known for being very, very strict, and the workers there, the nuns I think, were very strict disciplinarians. Now, Amelia wouldn't be in that orphanage for too long before it was arranged by Clemence to also have Christine and Leah put in the exact same orphanage. Now, Clemence, her goal was for Leah and Christine to remain in this orphanage until they were at least 15 years old, because this is the age of employment, and if they could get work, get money, stand on their own 2 feet, they wouldn't really need their parents anymore. And that's the aim of the game with Clemence. She doesn't want children. In 1913, Clemence and Gustave, they would officially divorce after all those happy years. And in 1918, Amelia decided to enter another convent where she had actually wanted to become a nun. So she did this, and ultimately she kind of cut off all of her toxic family, which worked well for her, more power to her. So as I had briefly touched on earlier, Leah and Christine, they were as close gets for sisters. They were almost inseparable, and they did most things together. Due to the instability in their childhood, they felt like the only person that they could really rely on was each other. And it's almost like their problematic upbringing, their problematic parents seemed to really form this close bond. It was like they were super glued together. No one else had any knowledge of what these girls had suffered through apart from them. Now, both of these girls, they had obviously been passed around from pillar to post, relative to institution, but that one thing that remained consistent throughout their lives was each other. And as the girls grew older, they both remained like each other's personal therapists. Like, do you know how like you've got your best friend and you're just like, to them, they give you a therapy session and then the roles reverse, you just confide in each other. That's what the Papin sisters were like. While she was in the orphanage, Christine had actually expressed to her mother at one point that she wanted to become a nun. Like that was the dream. That was a life goal. She wanted to become a nun. But Clemence, she completely forbade it. She wasn't allowed. Clemence had spoke. She did not want her daughter doing that, and so Christine could not pursue her dream to become a nun. Instead, she forced or harshly insisted that Christine and Leah, as soon as they can, they should seek employment. You know, like, don't rely on me anymore, get your own money and then give me some of the money too. Now, Christine, she was known to be an extremely hardworking young woman. She was so strong-minded. To be fair, she wasn't always the most obedient employee. Like, she wouldn't take no you know? If she was dissatisfied with her circumstances, her employer would know about it. Like, she'd tell them, listen, I'm not happy, changes must be made. However, she was also known to be very assertive and very determined, which was a really attractive trait to have at this point. Like, she could get the job done without needing directed every step of the way. Christine, while she had been in the orphanage, she was trained in like a lot of domestic duties. So for instance, she was a really talented cook, really thrived in this area. She was also good at all the sort of like cleaning, all those sort of jobs, and this really paved the way for her career as a maid. So Leah was quite different to Christine in comparison. Leah was a lot more obedient, she was quiet, she was much more introverted. If she had a problem, you wouldn't know because she's not going to say it to you. She was very much a people pleaser, which, you know, I'm sure we can all relate to being a bit of a people pleaser at some point. She was also less assertive than Christine. Oftentimes she wouldn't really take initiative, she wouldn't really sort of like get up and go on her own, she had to be told what to do all the time. Now, it is said that Leah was also deemed to be the less intelligent of the two, and apparently with her being less intelligent, this made her more susceptible to being submissive to Christine, who was much more dominant. Both Leah and Christine, they would work as live-in maids most of the time. Whenever they were working as live-in maids, they would often be working together, so they'd live in the same house. Usually they'd share a room, which really helped maintain that special bond that they had. Yeah, but I mean, it was good because they could support each other and sort of like pick each other up, and Christine could boss around Leah and Leah could just do whatever her sister told her to do because that's how it worked between the two. Employers, they found the girls to be very diligent, very hardworking, but they did say that the difference in their personalities would tend to cause quite a bit of friction because the girls just didn't always agree, which resulted in them not always getting along. So it could be a really awkward working environment, which not very professional. At this point, it's 1926 and both of the girls, they are of a working age, so they decide that they would like to seek some employment. Now, ideally, the position that they're looking for is going to be a live-in position where they could both live together and work together. And this opportunity would present itself. The Lancelin family, Lancelin, they were looking for 2 live-in maids, which was absolutely perfect. And it was also in Le Mans, which, again, perfect, means that they don't really have to relocate. It's somewhere in the area that they're familiar with. Brilliant. Also, apologies, I just misspoke because I'm pretty sure I said that the Lancelin family were looking to hire 2 maids. They actually weren't, but the way that it worked out is Christine worked for the Lancelin family at first, and then she had kind of said, you know, my sister's looking for a job, like we could work together, really keep this house in order for you. And the Lancelin family went for it because Christine was doing really well, and surely having another pair of hands that worked as well would be a positive. They'll wish at some point that they just did not do this. So the Lancelin family consisted of Monsieur René Lancelin, that was the father of the house. There was also Madame Leonie Lancelin, that was the mother of the house. And then they also lived with their sort of like older daughter, Genevieve. I have heard people say her name like Genevieve, which, wow, that sounded nice, right? Name sounds beautiful. Genevieve. Oh my, I love that. So René Lancelin, he was a retired solicitor, and I'm not really sure what Madame Leonie did. I don't know if she was like a stay-at-home mother or, you know, just a lady of leisure. I would love that life, personally. I think that sounds great. They had this really beautiful 2-storey house, and the 2-storey house, it was like this sort of like townhouse on number 6 Rue Bruyere. So within the house, the girls sort of maintained their, you know, best positions. So for instance, Christine, she would be the family cook because she was a talented chef, really good at it. And Leah, she would pick up most of the cleaning duties. Now, for the Lancelin family, the Papin sisters, they were like the blueprint of perfect staff. Every single Sunday, they would dress up and attend church. They were extremely professional, and they were so good at their job that the Lancelin family had every French upper class family in a complete chokehold of envy that they had the best staff. They all wanted the Papin sisters, but the Lancelins were like, no, sorry, you can't afford them. And I mean, to be quite honest, the Lancelin family, they were quite worried that they might lose the Papin sisters to another rich upper class French family because everyone was after them. They were literally having to look out for Papin poachers. I honestly look like a big bruise with this makeup, but I think once we clean up it's going to be fine. Anyway, the Papin sisters, the hours that they worked, it was really grueling. Like, their job was very physically demanding, which a lot of other employees might have been really unhappy with, but for the Papin sisters, the fact that they were getting to work and live together felt like such a privilege, and that is all they wanted. So they were quite happy to put in all these grueling hours, all this hard work, but at the end of the day, they would reunite with each other in their cosy little bedroom, doing God knows what. So the Papin sisters, they are very unsociable. They very much keep to themselves, but the Lancelin family, like, they never seen this as a red flag because as long as the housework's done, the pillows are fluffed and the dinner's cooked, why are they going to bother? The sisters kept to themselves that much that even on their 2-hour break after lunch, instead of going outside and enjoying the nice weather or going for a nice walk or just doing something fun, they would just go up to their bedroom and lock themselves in for 2 hours. They just wanted some alone time.
Oh my.
And in case you're not, you know, picking up what I'm laying down for you, these sisters are really close, right? But how close is too close for sisters? I'm gonna say it's when they start getting funky with each other. That's a bit too close. Christine and Leah, they went from sisters to the Scissor Sisters, you know? Do you know what I mean? You get that? People online were saying it and I had to say it. Also, the Scissor Sisters, do you remember that band for like the early 2000s or maybe the late 2000s?
Wake up in the morning and you feel like watching down.
Them, they were a hoot for that period of time. Yeah. So outside of the Lancelin family, like, outsiders looking in, they said that the Lancelin family treated the Papin sisters very, very well. Apparently, the Papin sisters would eat the same meals as the Lancelins. They didn't eat with them, but they got to eat the same food. And they were really lucky because they had a heated room to sleep in. Like, wow. Apparently back then, heating was a nice to have, not a must have. Not an essential, just a nice to have. And it was said that they were also treated very well because they would receive the standard minimum wage at that point, which let's be honest, it's probably 2p, but nonetheless, they were treated equally and fairly. Would we say that? I'm not sure. And the way I've described it all just then, right, it sounds as though the Papin sisters, they had a reasonably good life. At the end of the day, it is their work, so how good is it really going to get? But by the sounds of it, they had quite a nice living arrangement. But according to them, this was absolutely incorrect, and apparently they did not have a good working relationship or social relationship with the Lancelin family at all. The Papin sisters, they said that they had basically no relationship whatsoever with their employers, but more specifically René Lancelin. He hadn't spoke to any of the girls for the whole 7 years that they worked for him. All of the orders would come from his wife, and at that point, these would be written orders. The wife didn't even want to talk to the help. I'm not going to talk to the help. I'll write them a wee note and tell them what I want done. And I'm not being funny. See, if someone didn't give me the courtesy and respect to at least orally tell me, or verbally tell me what they want me to do, I would pretend that I can't read. I'd be like, I don't know what you want me to do. Can you please say it? Just to force them to speak to me, because nah, there's no way I'm going through my day and I'm reading little notes for you telling me that you want your feet rubbed. Communicate. Just treat me like a human being, okay? Thank you. Now, I did think about no mentioning this part because, it does sound a bit disrespectful and not to speak ill of the dead, but people who knew the Lancelin family did say that Leonie in particular, she had a bit of a stick up her ass. They said it, not me. Everything that people did for the Lancelin family was never quite enough for Leonie, and this included the work that the Papin sisters would do. She was always trying to catch them out and make them feel like they hadn't done a very good job, or if it was evident that they had did a good job, she would go through everything with a fine-tooth comb just to find a wee speck of dust. And Leonie was so severe in the way that she would try and catch the sisters out, and she would perform a white glove test. So she'd go into this little box and pull out this white fabric glove, and she'd just stare at the Papin sisters, bring it on her hand and do the whole. So then she would go over to surfaces that they've just dusted, they've just finished, and she'd be like, dust. She was obsessive about catching them out. The woman couldn't admit when the girls had did a good job. She just hoped and prayed that there was something there that she could jump down their throat about. And honest to God, this would steam my clams to the highest degree. Don't you dare getting out a wee white fabric glove and rubbing the sort. What if you planted dust on there, Leonie? What if she had planted dust? That would be easy to do. I'm on her. Now, it is said that Madame Lancelin, so Leonie, at some point, her mental health just really took a turn for the worse. It really started to decline fast, and she fell into a really deep depression. And not only was she extremely depressed, but she was also having these random outbursts and fits of anger. And sadly, these fits of anger, the Papin sisters would be the ones to face the consequences. And during this time, Leonie, she had become very, very critical of the Papin sisters, and she would scrutinise their every move. It is also said that Leonie Lancelin, whenever the mood struck her, she would physically assault the Papin sisters. And it is stated that at the peak of this abuse, Leonie, she would grab the Papin sisters by their hair and repeatedly smash their head up against a wall. That's more attempted murder than it is just assault, in my eyes. So now we are going to go ahead and talk about the tragic events that would unfold in this case. Let's set the scene. It's a dark, stormy, rainy night. Cue the thunder. Thank you. and it is Thursday the 2nd of February of 1933. Monsieur Lancelin, I just want to keep doing that when I say it, but he was meant to be meeting Leonie and Genevieve at Leonie's brother's house for dinner. Leonie and Genevieve, they had been out shopping for the day, so it was planned that they would have their shopping day, they would go to her brother's house, and then Renee would come and meet them. And as far as the Papin sisters were aware, the family shouldn't really be back until very, very late at night, so most likely they wouldn't even cross paths with the family this evening, unless they were going to like pee during the night and they bumped into each other. But apart from that, they shouldn't see them. At this point in time, Christine is 27 and Leah is 21. So their plans for today was just to continue on with their chores. They had a lot to get done, and they also had some errands to run as well. Now, one of the most important errands for that day was the Papin sisters had to go and pick up an iron from like a repair shop that they had put it into. So earlier in the week, when they went to use the iron, they plugged it into like the electrical outlet, and as soon as they did this, it blew the fuses in the house, so the house was in complete darkness. So the Lancelin family had thought, must be a problem with the iron, so take it in, get it repaired and bring it back. The Papin sisters, they head off to the iron repair shop. Is that a thing, or is it just a repair shop and they happen to do irons? I don't know. But they go to pick up the iron, and when they get there, the iron repairman said that there was actually nothing wrong with the iron. He's checked everything about it, all the elements, and he doesn't see any reason why this would be causing the fuses in the house to blow. So he says it's working fine, take it home, safe to use, absolutely nothing wrong with it. The Papin sisters at this point, they're like, right, well, we've got chores to get on with, so at least we now know that the iron does work. We can get home and get the ironing done. So the Papin sisters, they arrive back at the Lancelin home and they get started on their chores. They're working through them, and then Christine decides, right, I'm going to get on with the ironing. So she goes, she plugs in this apparently working iron, and poof, all the lights in the house go again. All the fuses have blown, and they're in the pitch darkness. Now, in the Papin sisters' minds, right, they're like, oh, like, can we really be bothered going and like flicking on the fuse and stuff like that? And they're thinking, well, the Lancelin family, they're not going to be home until very, very late at night. Most likely they'll come in and go straight to bed. So are they really going to need electricity? Like, does one need to see on their route to bed? I'm not sure. So they decide that they will leave the fuses tonight and they'll just fix them in the morning, first thing before the Lancelin family get up. To the Papin sisters' absolute horror, it's around 5:30 and they hear the doors open. Who walks in but Leonie and Genevieve? They're not supposed to be home, but presumably they've came back to like drop off their shopping very quick before they go to dinner. They're here just to drop off some bags, and no one could predict the events that would unfold. Leonie and Genevieve, they enter the home and they're looking around and thinking, why is it so dark in here? Like, where's the lights? And they sort of like walk around, and then they meet Leah and Christine, and they're like, what's going on, gals? Like, where's the lighting in this house? And Christine and Leah proceed to tell her that they went to pick up the iron from the iron repairman, and he said that there was no issue found with the iron at all. It's safe to use, it's not broke, there's no problem. And Leonie's like, right, okay. So Christine and Leah proceed to tell her, like, we came back, got started on the chores, went to do the ironing, plugged in the iron, and all the fuses blew again. And for some reason, this steamed Leonie's clams so bad, she flew into like this furious rage and started blaming the sisters, not only for the broken iron that actually has nothing wrong with it, but also for the darkness in the house because all the fuses have blown. And I'd just be like, babe, Leonie, let's take a step back here. You do realise that you could just go, flip the switch, and voila, we will have power and light. Or, you know, if you want us to do it, we'll do it. Like, it's no big beef. Like, calm down. Take a break, have a Kit Kat, and calm down. Honestly, discussing these kind of situations, it just makes me realise that I would have like no hope of surviving because my mouth is going to get me in trouble. I'm just like, Anything someone says, there's a sarcastic comment somewhere in my head just wanting to come out. It's a problem. A real problem. Now, just a disclaimer as well, every next bit that I'm going to talk about regarding the events is obviously told from the side of the Papin Sisters because, well, you're going to find out why Leone and Genevieve can't tell us what happened that night. So according to the sisters, Leone became so furious and attacked both of the sisters. And honestly, I mean, what a bloody hazardous position they're in as well, because they're on the first floor at the very top of the stairs, and as Leone is attacking the sisters, Christine, she sees red. This gal, she snaps. So Christine, in this moment of absolute rage, she lunges toward Genevieve, she proceeds to grab her and then uses her hands, her bare hands, to gouge out Genevieve's eyes. What? And at this point, Genevieve is obviously crying out, screaming in terror, begging for her mum, begging Christine to stop, but everything is happening so quick. Now Leone, hearing the cries of her terrified daughter, she gets distracted, and this is when Leah would grab Leone. Once Leah has a hold of Leone, Christine then shouted to Leah, saying, "Smash her head into the ground and tear her eyes out her face." Now at this point, Leah's saying, like, I don't want to disappoint my sister, especially when she's acting like a crazy ass, so she proceeds to gouge out the eyes of Leone. Whilst Leah is gouging out Leone's eyes, Christine then runs downstairs, goes into the kitchen, gets a huge knife as well as a hammer, and then she proceeds to run up the stairs toward this whole chaos that's going on, and she's screaming, "I'm going to massacre them." Obviously, without their eyes, Leone and Genevieve, they have no chance of helping themselves. Like, they're rendered absolutely helpless at this point because, well, they can't see. So Christine and Leah, they grab the weapons as well as like a pewter pot, and they use the weapons and this pot to cave the skulls in of Leone and Genevieve. Now, using the weapons like the hammer and the knife, the girls, they proceed to bludgeon and slash and mutilate Leone and Genevieve. And at one point, they even pull up the skirts of both of the Lancelin women. Now, some sources state that their underwear had also been pulled down, but that's not confirmed. They pull up their skirts and they are mutilating their thighs and their bum, just cutting them up. And what is absolutely horrifying and so disturbing is the fact that the Papin Sisters, they proceeded to baste Leone with Genevieve's menstrual blood, with her period blood. Like, can you imagine? That's twisted. So twisted. Now, at this point, both of the Lancelin women, they had been so brutally mutilated, slashed and beaten that they were completely unrecognisable. Their teeth and everything was like scattered over the floor, like their faces were bashed in. It was just the most horrific scene you could ever imagine, like something straight out of a horror film. Now, experts later said that they believed that the events of the evening would have lasted around 30 minutes. Obviously, I wish these women hadn't died at all, but my God, I hope they died long before the end of that 30 minutes, because to endure that, it's just horrifying. So after they are finished with these horrific murders, the Papin Sisters, they decide that they need to clean themselves up, so they both go for a shower and proceeded to lock every single door in the house from the inside, so there was no way into the house. They both then went up to their bedroom and they lit one candle and then climbed into bed together. For what? I don't know. So back at Leonie's brother's house, René Lancelin, he's there waiting on his wife and his daughter to show up, and of course they never show up. So he starts to get concerned at one point in the evening, and he thinks, you know what, I might just head over to the house, see if they're there, and just check that they're okay, because it was not like them to not turn up to something that's been planned. They would usually be earlier than him, so where are they? So it was said to be around 6:30 to 7 p.m. when Monsieur Lancelin would arrive back at the family home. He goes up to the house and he's trying to enter. That's what she said. God, Anna, honestly, grow up. But he's trying the doors of the house and it would appear that every single door is locked from the inside, so he has no way of getting in. He does try to break the door down, be all macho man, but ultimately he wouldn't get inside. So at this point he's really getting worried. There's no lights on in the house at all, which is really strange, but he can see a tiny bit of light coming from the Papin Sisters' room. So he's thinking maybe they're in, but then why would they not answer the door? And this is what was getting him really worried, because if someone was in the house, even if it was the Papin Sisters, they would always open the door. So he's becoming more and more worried, and Lancelin, he decides that he better go to the police station and just sort of voice his concerns to them and see if they can help him get into the house. Gets to the police station and he explains, his thoughts, his feelings, his intuition, and one of the police officers decide to go back to the Lancelin home with him. Now, a policeman was able to gain entry to the house by climbing one of the garden walls and then breaking in through, I think, a window. So the officer's in the house and he's calling out the names of Leonie, Genevieve and the Papin sisters, and he is getting no response. So he continues through the house where he eventually reaches the first floor stairs, and this is where he would be wide-eyed with terror as he seen the brutally mutilated, lifeless bodies of Leonie and Genevieve Lancelin. Now, the officer notices this little weird thing on the floor and he's like, oh, it's like a marble or something. So he goes over to this marble for a closer look, and this is when he would discover that it wasn't a marble. It was an eyeball, like a real life eyeball. Now, Madame Lancelin, her eyes would be found wrapped up in a scarf, and the eye that he thought was a marble had been one of Genevieve's, and then her other eyeball would be found underneath her body. Now, René, he had also made the police aware of the Papin sisters, who were the living maids and resided in the home, and he expressed his fears that, possibly the Papin sisters have also been murdered by this evil intruder. Little does he know. So the officer, he heads upstairs in the direction of the room that they could see from the outside that had been dimly lit. So he's knocking on it, he's shouting the names of the Papin sisters, trying to make sure that, they're okay. And when he's calling into this room, he's receiving absolutely no response. And at this point, he's thinking, oh my God, these girls are obviously dead as well. So he tries the door, but this is of course locked. So fearing the worst, the police officer, he broke into the room and he would be absolutely shocked at what he would see. So as the officer entered the bedroom, he would find the Papin sisters lying in bed together, unharmed, naked, with the bloodied hammer beside them. And this bloodied hammer had hair on it. So the police, they force the sisters out of bed. They're ordering them to get dressed whilst they're asking them some questions about that evening. And immediately, without hesitation, the Papin sisters admit that yes, it had been them that had murdered the Lancelin women. But they tried to claim that it had been in self-defence. Christine coldly said to the police, it was her or us. Now, once Christine had said this, Leah, she then pipes up and she says, from this moment on, I am now dumb and deaf. That's interesting. But I can't help but feel like that was an order by Christine. I feel like Christine doesn't want Leah to open her mouth and say anything wrong, but I can't be sure. But I was just thinking out loud. So police, of course, they proceed to arrest the sisters because caught red-handed, quite literally. And when the girls were being separated, Christine started losing her. She became extremely distressed. She was throwing fits. She was crying and screaming, begging to not be separated from Leah. Now, I don't know if the police were just sick and tired of her moaning, but they would allow a meeting between the two. And police had said that Christine in particular was speaking and acting in a very sexualised way toward her sister Leah. And at one point, Christine throws herself at Leah, is unbuttoning her shirt, and she's like, oh yes, please say yes. Excuse me? Take that elsewhere. Now, the vicious crimes of Christine and Leah, they actually really attracted the attention of a lot of prominent intellectual figures from this time. Now, they believed and would also argue that these murders had actually been a manifestation of class struggle. Intellectuals had believed that Christine and Leah, they had rebelled against their nasty and belittling masters. And they said this was due to the poor conditions that they worked in and also the way that they were being treated. Now, some prominent intellectual figures from this time, such as Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir and Jean Genet, all three of them had claimed that these murders were an example of class warfare. So the sisters' defence, they had tried to claim that the sisters were suffering from temporary insanity. But they had even mentioned that they had a cousin who passed away in an asylum. They also had a grandfather who was prone to very vicious and aggressive attacks. And they also had an uncle who had committed suicide. Now, obviously, the reason for mentioning these family members and the conditions of which they suffered was to show sort of that their mental illness could be hereditary, therefore making it more believable. Now, psychological experts, they had actually argued that the Papin sisters had suffered from Folie. Deux. I don't know how you say it right. But this is basically a condition of shared psychosis. Some of the symptoms of this sort of like paranoid shared psychosis is hearing voices, a sense of persecution, and also a capability of inciting violence and aggression in what they perceive to be self-defence in a threatening environment. Inappropriate expressions of sexuality, which might explain the Papin sisters' incestuous relationship. But it's said that in these situations, the one suffering from paranoia, they often see the mother figure as a persecutor. So in this case, that would have been Madame Lancelin. It is also said in these states that one of the pair will usually dominate the other. As we've said throughout this whole case, Christine was the dominating one and Leah was more submissive. Now, paranoid schizophrenia is a really difficult diagnosis because those who are suffering from it can outwardly seem quite normal. And at trial, the Papin sisters presented themselves as quite normal, which really had the jury struggling to believe the diagnosis in the first place and believe that these crimes could be committed under temporary insanity. Now, prosecution and also members of the jury, they had said that the Papin sisters, they just seem too normal to be ill. And if that is not just a reflection of what it's like today when you try to receive treatment for mental health, you're too normal. No, you look a normal way. Oh, you don't seem sad enough. You're always too normal until it's too late. In July of 1933, Christine, she would suffer from like a fit or an episode, and she attempted to gouge out her own eyes with her bare hands, just like she had did to the Lancelin women. It didn't seem like this fit or episode was stopping anytime soon, so she had to be restrained and put in a straitjacket. Now, Christine would later state that the night that these murders had occurred, she had suffered from the same fit or episode that then caused her to murder the Lancelin women. Now, the court jurors, after only 40 minutes of deliberation, they concluded that the Papin sisters were sane at the time of the murders and therefore guilty. Christine Papin, she would be sentenced to death by guillotine on September the 30th, 1933. Leah Papin, she was considered an accomplice but not the leader of the murder, and so she got a much lighter sentence and she was sentenced to 10 years of hard labour. Whilst Christine was in prison, her death sentence would be commuted to a life sentence, so life in prison. However, Christine, she would begin to starve herself and she would eventually die from starvation in 1937. Leah Papin, she would be released from prison in 1941 after serving just 8 years. She got out on good behaviour. Now, after she was released from prison, she went to live with her mother and she also got a job working as a hotel maid, and she lived under a different identity. Now, there is some accounts that say that Leah had died in 1982. However, a French film creator by the name of Claude Ventura, he claimed that he found Leah living in a hospice, and this woman that he had claimed was Leah was unable to speak due to a stroke that she had suffered, and she was also partially paralysed. So there was really no way to conclude that that was in fact Leah. But if that was Leah, then she died in 2001, not 1982. Leah and Christine, they would be reunited once again when they were both buried in the same cemetery. But that is it for today's true crime and makeup case. I really hope you found this one interesting. I certainly did. I've known about this case for ages, but I really just wanted to dive into it and see what else I could find, little bits of information that I had maybe not heard before. So hopefully it's the same for you as well. If you did enjoy, please make sure you are subscribed to my channel with the notification bell on, because I upload twice a week, every single week. Please don't forget to leave a like and a comment, especially a comment. That really helps with the algorithm. It really helps push me out to YouTube for more people to find my channel. Within your comment, don't forget to leave a question if you have one. I am going to do a little Q&A on top of my 2 weekly uploads. So 1 week there will be 3 videos for you, but 1 will just be me yapping rubbish about myself. If there's anything you want to know about me, it can be personal, it can be true crime related, it can literally be whatever you want. I'm an open book. Don't forget, in the description you can find details of all the products used on my face today with direct links if there's anything you would like to purchase. You'll also find my social media handles, so my Instagram and my TikTok, if you want to give me a follow over there. And you also can send your case suggestions over to me via email, which is in the description, or you can just leave them in the comments below if you would prefer. But thank you so much for watching. Please, please, please be a good person. Don't be a bad person. Stay safe, look after each other, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!